News on the Hour on DD India, and I'm Preeti. In the next 1 hour, we'll get you through everything that's making it to the headlines. News on the Hour is a comprehensive, detailed show which we get for you every morning to make sure that you keep yourself abreast with all the aspects of the news items that make it to the headlines. Enough to keep you engaged for the next 1 hour. We get to the headlines first. Union Health Minister Dr. Harshvardhan visits AIIMS Trauma Centre in Delhi, assesses healthcare infrastructure in view of rising COVID-19 cases in the national capital. Vaccinations across the country has crossed 11.72 crore mark. Government takes significant steps to ensure availability of oxygen during COVID pandemic. 100 new hospitals to have their own oxygen plant under PM CARES Fund. Another 50,000 MT of medical oxygen to be imported. Mapping of 12 high-burden states for oxygen sources undertaken. Centre issues regulatory guidelines for clearances for foreign-produced COVID-19 vaccines. DCGI will take a decision within 3 working days from submission of complete application. First 100 beneficiaries of such vaccines to be assessed for 7 days for safety outcomes before rollout for further vaccination program. Strict restrictions against pandemic. Weekend curfew in Delhi and Rajasthan from today. Essential services to continue as usual. In Uttar Pradesh, night curfew imposed in 10 districts including Lucknow and Varanasi from yesterday. NEET postgraduate exam scheduled for 18th April deferred. West Bengal Chief Electoral Officer to hold meeting with recognized political parties to discuss campaigning precautions during COVID-19. Preparations being finalized for 5th phase polling in 45 seats tomorrow. Campaigning intensifies for 6th phase. CEDA BJP leader Amit Shah and party president JP Nadda to hold rallies at several places. And US President Joe Biden announces new sanctions on Russia. Expulsion of 10 Russian diplomats in retaliation for alleged hacking and election interference. Russia summons US ambassador for tough talks, says will respond shortly. And in sports, Manchester United to face Roma in the Europa League semi-finals. Reds secured a 4-0 aggregate victory over Granada in yesterday's night quarter-final tie. Those are the top stories. Let's get to the news in detail. Union Health Minister Dr. Harshvardhan today visited AIIMS Trauma Centre in Delhi to assess healthcare infrastructure in view of the rising COVID-19 cases in the city. The minister will visit various healthcare facilities over the next few days to assess and further scale up facilities in the wake of COVID-19 situation. AIIMS Director Dr. Randeep Guleria and other doctors of the hospital were also present.
हम सब प्रकार की परिस्थितियों के बारे में आज उससे लड़ने के लिए ज़्यादा बेटर ढंग से इक्विप्ड हैं, कम से कम मेंटली, इंटेलेक्चुअली, मॉरली और अपनी करेज की दृष्टि से। शायद हमारे पास आज पहले के मुकाबले 1 साल क्योंकि हमने लड़ाई को लड़ा है।
AIIMS Director Dr. Randeep Guleria directed AIIMS officials to ensure enough medications and adequate supply of oxygen to the patients. He also said that there is need to be vigilant in terms of testing, isolating and making sure all infection control measures are taken.
Making sure that all infection control measures are taken. We need to be very vigilant. I had already told the hospital administration and the MS to make sure that we have enough medications available, whether it be remdesivir, whether it be steroids, whether it be tocilizumab. So both from NCI and from the trauma center, please make sure that there is enough medication available to treat both the trauma center and NCI to make sure that the oxygen supply is good enough, because we will start requiring HFNCs in large number of patients, which is something which is at sometimes 60 liters per minute. So please make sure that we have enough oxygen.
The total vaccinations across the country have crossed the 11.72 crore mark, with over 27.3 lakh vaccine doses administered yesterday. The cumulative number of COVID-19 vaccine doses administered in the country stands at 11 crore 72 lakh 23,509. 3 states have administered over 1 crore vaccinations, including over 1.11 crore in Maharashtra, over 1.02 crore in Rajasthan and around a crore in Uttar Pradesh. Let's get you an update on the COVID situation across the country. India reports 2,739 new COVID cases in the past 24 hours. Now, as per the Union Health Ministry, 1,18,302 recoveries were made in the last 24 hours, taking the cumulative total of recovered patients to 1 crore 25 lakh 866. Now, with this, the recovery rate currently stands at 88.31%. India's total active caseload stands at over 15.69 lakh today. The country's present active caseload consists of 10.46% of the total positive cases. The fatality rate stands at 1.23%. And looking at testing updates, as per the Indian Council of Medical Research, over 26.34 crore samples have been tested for COVID-19 in the country so far, including over 14.73 lakh samples tested yesterday. A meeting of Empowered Group 2 was held yesterday to review the availability of essential medical equipment and oxygen during COVID situation and COVID times. 3 important decisions have been taken, including the government is identifying another 100 hospitals in far-flung locations for consideration of sanction for installation of pressure swing absorption plants. Now, these plants manufacture oxygen. 162 plants were sanctioned earlier under PM CARES funds are being monitored for early completion. Secondly, in view of increasing demand for medical oxygen, the government decided to float a tender for import of 50,000 MT of medical oxygen. The Union Health Ministry has been directed to finalize the tender for the same and also explore possible sources for import identified by the missions of MEA. Thirdly, 4,880 MT, 5,619 MT and 6,593 MT have been identified for 12 high-burden states for meeting their projected demand as on 20th, 25th and 30th of April, respectively. Sources of medical oxygen and their production capacity was mapped to match the requirement of the states. States are Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Gujarat, Uttar Pradesh, Delhi, Chhattisgarh, Karnataka, Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Punjab, Haryana and Rajasthan. In a radical reform measure, the union government has issued the guidelines for clearances for foreign-produced COVID-19 vaccines. Drugs Controller General of India will take a decision within 3 working days from submission of complete application, subject to certain conditions. The vaccine shall be used as per the guidelines prescribed under National COVID-19 Vaccination Program. First 100 beneficiaries of such vaccine shall be assessed for 7 days for safety outcomes before it is rolled out for further vaccination program. The applicant shall initiate conduct of post-approval bridging clinical trials within 30 days of such approval. The move will help in quicker access to such foreign vaccines by India and would encourage imports, including import of bulk drug material, optimal utilization of domestic fill and finish capacity, etc. This will in turn provide a fillip to vaccine manufacturing capacity and also total vaccine availability within the country. Indian ambassador to Russia, Bala Venkatesh Verma, has said that the first batch of Russia's COVID-19 vaccine, Sputnik 5, will be delivered to India in April. He added that the volume of the vaccine production in India will be gradually increasing and may exceed 50 million doses per month. Sputnik 5 got approval from the Subject Expert Committee for Emergency Use Authorization, making it the 3rd COVID-19 vaccine to get clearance in India. India has become the 60th country to authorize the use of Russian Sputnik 5 vaccine against coronavirus. Union Health Minister Dr. Harshvardhan is speaking after visiting AIIMS. Let's listen in. All right, before we go across to that, we'll very quickly get you a quick update on the restrictions which have been put in the national capital with regard to the COVID situation. The rapid rise in the COVID cases in the national capital prompted the Delhi government to further intensify its efforts to curb the spread of the pandemic. Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal reviewed the situation during a meeting with Lieutenant Governor Anil Baijal. Weekend curfew will be imposed from today and timings will be 10 p.m. on Friday to 6 a.m. on Monday. However, essential services will be allowed and people who are getting married will be issued special passes. Gyms, pools, malls, auditoria will be shut and cinema halls will be allowed at 30% capacity. One weekly market will be allowed per day per zone. Dine-in will be prohibited at restaurants and only takeaways will be allowed.
स्थिति जैसे हम देख रहे हैं रोज़ केसेस बढ़ते जा रहे हैं इस स्थिति को कंट्रोल करने के लिए दिल्ली सरकार ने कुछ निर्णय लिए हैं। एलजी साहब के साथ मीटिंग हुई थी और सबने मिलके ये निर्णय लिए हैं कि वीकेंड के ऊपर कर्फ्यू दिल्ली के अंदर लगाया जाएगा।
Rajasthan will have a 12-hour daily curfew from 6 p.m. to 5 a.m. starting today across all cities as part of a series of measures to curb a worrying spike in COVID cases. The curfew will be in effect till the end of the month. Other measures include closing of markets by 5 p.m. daily and the complete closure of all educational and coaching institutions. Factories and bus stands will be exempt from this order. Public functions and sporting events will not be allowed. Weddings can have a maximum of 50 guests as opposed to the earlier 100-guest cap. Uttar Pradesh government has imposed an 11-hour night curfew in 10 districts with more than 2,000 active COVID-19 cases from yesterday. Night curfew will be imposed between 8 p.m. to 7 a.m. The districts are in Lucknow, Allahabad, Varanasi, Kanpur, Gautam Budh Nagar, Ghaziabad, Meerut and Gorakhpur. Also, board exams for Class 10 and Class 12 have been postponed till May 20th, while all schools in the state will be closed till 15th of May in view of the rising COVID-19 cases. Now, the new dates for the board examinations are likely to be decided in the first week of May. The decisions were taken at a meeting virtually chaired by Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath from his residence, where he has isolated himself after testing positive for COVID-19. The Chief Minister also stressed on creating awareness on importance of wearing masks and sanitization. In Maharashtra, prohibitory orders under Section 144 have been imposed till May 1st and no person will be allowed in a public place without a valid reason. With curfew in place, the BMC has clarified that some categories of essential workers will remain exempt from the restrictions that have been imposed since Wednesday night. Authorities have been directed to take stern action against those who violate the rules. All establishments, public spaces, activities and services will remain closed. To get us more on that, our correspondent Shishir Shelar is joining us from Mumbai. Shishir, when we talk of the restrictions which have been put forth in Maharashtra, I want you to talk more about what restrictions have been put in place. We tell our viewers that prohibitory orders under Section 144 have been imposed till 1st of May. Spell out more details first.
Well, absolutely, Preeti. Today being the second day of this lockdown here, we have seen here that people have not seen on the road since yesterday. Even the vehicular movement have seen quite less. So obviously that was the main aim of the government while imposing this lockdown. They said that they want to break the chain of the curve, and that's the reason we have to avoid crowding at one places, especially at the public places, be it bus stops, railway stations, and many other important spots that we see in Mumbai and across Maharashtra. Well, probably that's the first time, and that's the reason since yesterday we have seen here that the traffic on the roads have reduced a lot. People on the roads have started seeing in a less number. Well, obviously, government have also said the private offices that if possible, they can switch to work from home. And whenever it's necessary, the government officials have been told that they can work with the 50% of the workforce available with them. So these are the steps taken by the government here. Government have also said that the movement of the vehicular will be allowed, especially the public transport is only allowed for the people who are working in essential services. Well, the long route trains, the Mail and Express, are working as per the schedule. But as the government also said that the railway authority will have to take care of the COVID protocols while making sure that the services fly on their regular scheduled time. Apart from that, there have also been various steps taken by the state government, especially for the people in the lower strata of the society, especially the workers and the auto rickshaw walas. Government have actually announced various announcement for them. The financial aid also been provided to them, as well as the government have also going to provide the food to these people. And that's the reason various steps have been taken. As far as the Mumbai is concerned, because number of cases is increasing in Mumbai, and that's the reason the BMC, the BMA Municipal Corporation, has now taken a few steps and have started already a new jumbo COVID center at various locations in Mumbai. It's been 3-4 days that the BMC is looking forward to start this COVID center. In the first wave of Corona, this COVID center was operational. Meantime, it was closed down. But again, now these COVID centers have started doing the operations here. Apart from that, some of the 5-star hotels in nearby areas, especially nearby the airport area, will be converted into a COVID center. Some of the hospitals have agreed to join hand with some private hospitals here. So those who want to get quarantined themselves, they can go for the 5-star as well. As far as the people coming outside to India, especially from the Middle East, Europe, America, even these people will have to get quarantined themselves, and that's the reason the BMC has made arrangements of 2 5-star hotels near the airport, so that people, especially the traveler who coming outside from India, can get quarantined there for at least for 10-14 days here. So these are steps taken by the BMC here, but not just the BMC, the Pune Municipal Corporation, the Nagpur Municipal Corporation. Apart from that, the various the Gram Panchayat also, these kind of steps that we have taken. First of all, the Chief Minister have already directed the collectors and the council members also that whenever it's necessary, and the police also, the Chief Minister directed wherever it's necessary to take the certain actions here. Implementation of this rule is quite important, because that is the main aim behind this lockdown. That's the reason strict implementation of the Break the Chain initiative has been directed by the Chief Minister. He also said that those who've been found violating these norms shall be punished here. So obviously, at this point in time, yesterday, if you look at these numbers, is almost 57,000 in a day. Every day, the corona positive patients numbers are going beyond 50,000 here, and that's what a worrisome factor for the state government is, how they can reduce these numbers. Now, it's just been a second day of the lockdown. Probably we have to wait for some more time. Probably.
So the main concern for the administration is to break the chain of transmission. Thank you so much, Shishir, for joining us and letting us know about the details of the restrictions which have been put in place by the administration. They will keep you updated. Let's get you more news. The National Eligibility Cum Entrance Test for postgraduate students, scheduled to be held on April 18th, has been postponed for the time being in view of the rising COVID-19 cases. Union Health Minister Dr. Harshvardhan said that the next date will be decided later. He added that the decision has been taken keeping in mind the well-being of our young medical students. NEET PG examination is for doctors seeking admission in MS and MD courses. The examination was earlier scheduled to be held in January, but was postponed because of the pandemic. Let's shift focus to West Bengal Assembly elections now. The West Bengal Chief Electoral Officer will hold a meeting today with representatives of recognized national and state political parties to discuss campaigning precautions during COVID-19. Last Friday, the Election Commission had reminded political parties to follow COVID-19 protocols for campaigning after finding instances during the ongoing assembly elections where social distancing and mask-wearing norms were flouted. In a letter to the political parties, the Election Commission reiterated its August 2020 guidelines for campaigning during the pandemic. It said that by violating COVID norms, the political parties and candidates are exposing themselves as well as the public attending such election meetings to the grave danger of infection. The poll-bound panel also clarified that the Commission, in cases of breach, will not hesitate in banning public meetings and rallies of the defaulting candidates or campaigners or political leaders without any further reference. Meanwhile, campaigning has intensified for the 6th phase polls in West Bengal. Union Home Minister and senior BJP leader Amit Shah will hold public meeting in Tehata and Kardaha. He will also hold road shows in Krishnanagar, Uttar and Barakpur, while BJP President JP Nadda will hold public meeting in Katwa. He will also hold road shows in Bardhaman and Kolkata North Suburban. Nadda will also have town hall meetings in Kolkata and Kolkata North. Ex-CBI Director and ex-DG ITBP Ranjit Sinha passed away today morning. He was 68 years of age. Sinha was an Indian Police Service officer of the 1974 batch, and he had served as the Director of CBI from December 2012 to December 2014. Maldives Foreign Minister Abdullah Shahid will meet External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar in New Delhi today. They both will hold discussions on bilateral, regional and international issues of mutual interest. Later, Foreign Minister Shahid will participate in the Raisina dialogue in virtual mode in the sessions on financing for sun and global public health after the pandemic. Maldives is India's key maritime neighbor in the Indian Ocean region and occupies a central and special place in Prime Minister's vision of Sagar, that is security and growth for all in the region. Foreign Minister Shahid's visit is expected to lend further momentum to the close bilateral cooperation between the two countries. In a decision which is expected to significantly ease the process for reissue of overseas citizens of India cards, the Modi government has decided to simplify the process. Now, this decision has been taken on the directions of the Union Home Minister Amit Shah. The OCI card has proved to be very popular amongst foreigners of Indian origin and spouses of foreign origin of Indian citizens or the OCI card holders, as it helps them in hassle-free entry and unlimited stay in India. So far, about 37.72 lakh OCI cards have been issued by the Government of India. As per the extant law, a foreigner of Indian origin or a foreign spouse of an Indian citizen or a foreign spouse of an OCI card holder can be registered as an OCI card holder. OCI card is a lifelong visa for entry into and stay in India with a number of other major benefits attached to it which are not available to other foreigners. Time now for a short commercial break. We are heading towards. Up next, we will get to more news. Stay with us. You're watching News on the Hour.
Kitchen waste, green waste, dried leaves from the garden, which are a source of carbon.
The money we received from the government added to our savings all went into the rice mill. I was into athletics before going in for judo, which really attracted me. It is a wonderful sport for girls and very beneficial.
Namaste land.
Marhaban ila al-Hind.
Zari India.
Salam India. Namaste India.
Namaskar Bharata.
Nous sommes land.
Nahnu Hunud.
India.
Ma Hindi Hasti.
Mung Hindian.
Salam Hindustan.
We are India.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching News on the Hour, and up next we get to international updates. In a sharp escalation of Washington's confrontation with Moscow, US President Joe Biden has ordered fresh sanctions against Russia. Now, these include long-feared measures targeting its government debt. The first anti-Russian measures from the Biden administration also include expulsion of 10 Russian diplomats from the US and sanctions against 38 entities, individuals and companies accused of taking part in efforts to interfere in US elections and also conduct cyber attacks. Meanwhile, Russia has denied meddling in US elections, orchestrating a cyber hack that used US tech companies SolarWinds Corp to penetrate US government networks and using a nerve agent to poison Kremlin critic Alexei Navalny.
I was clear with President Putin that we could have gone further, but I chose not to do so. I chose to be proportionate. The United States is not looking to kick off a cycle of escalation and conflict with Russia. We want a stable, predictable relationship. If Russia continues to interfere with our democracy, I'm prepared to take further actions to respond. Now is the time to de-escalate. The way forward is through thoughtful dialogue and diplomatic process. The U.S. is prepared to continue constructively to move toward that process.
All right, to get us more on that, our correspondent Abhishek Jha is joining us. Abhishek, we see there is strain in the relationship of US and Russia. 10 Russian diplomats have been expelled by the US. Talk more about the issue. What could be the future repercussions?
So, Preeti, going by the latest decision that U.S. has tried to impose sanctions on Russian individuals, diplomats, and certain financial, that the U.S. has put on Russian agencies and stopping U.S. agencies from trading with Russian sovereign bonds. And so these are the steps actually in that direction where it looks like the U.S. is trying to take a very balanced approach, because on Tuesday, we have seen that U.S. President Biden had a telephonic talk with his Russian counterpart, Putin, and it looked like U.S. and Russia both are trying to work out a situation where the relationship is workable and they can join collaboratively on various global issues of concern. But now, with the latest sanction that the U.S. is trying to go ahead with, the situation is not as present as it was until a few days ago, because Russian side has reacted sharply to this. Russian spokesperson for Foreign Ministry had called the U.S. Ambassador Jack Sullivan in Moscow for a diplomatic dressing down, and it looked with her statement only that she has said that the meeting was not going to be a pleasant one for the U.S. diplomat in Moscow. So this looks like after U.S. imposition of sanctions, Russia is going to react sharply, and we'll have to wait for another couple of days when we'll actually get to know what steps Russia is going to take in order to retaliate the sanctions.
All right, Abhishek, I would want you to acquaint our viewers with the whole issue, because White House statement says that Russian intelligence was behind the SolarWinds hack, which Russia has denied on its part. Also, U.S. has blamed Russia for interference in the U.S. electoral process last year. Talk more about that. Acquaint our viewers with the nitty-gritties.
So, Preeti, we know that U.S. is regularly been implying the fact that Russian agencies, in fact, this time around, U.S. has clearly named the Russian intelligence agency for meddling with the U.S. elections during the time of U.S. election. Earlier also it was blamed that Russia has tried to create so many fake accounts, and Russia has tried to influence the social media behavioral pattern of U.S. voters. Certain issues were highlighted, certain issues were trolled to make a convenient approach in the U.S. society that suited Russia's ideology and Russia's narrative. So these allegations were not new. It was earlier also, but now the agencies in U.S. probe agencies are finding it worth. There is some substance in these reports, and now going by that reports, the sanctions is coming into place. Apart from that, the U.S. is also concerned with Russia's latest building up of military presence along the borders of Ukraine and Crimea, and this looks like a very flashpoint where the world is actually getting concerned. As we were talking, Preeti, it was looking like Russia and USA were on the path of kind of reconciliatory approach on various global issues, but with the latest steps that the US has taken, it looks little awkward how Russia is going to take these steps and how US-Russia bilateral ties are going to be headed in the days to come. US is also alleging Russia for certain other malign activities, including that it is talked that Russian agencies have used some sort of nerve gas agent against one of the prominent opposition leader in Russia, Alexei Navalny. So all those issues are also one of the concern that US has expressed upon, and it looks that these sanctions and the retaliatory steps that Russia is going to take will lead further complication of ties of USA and Russia in the days to come.
All right. Also, Abhishek, though no word has been, no word has come in from the Russian administration. But what sort of, what sort of a response can we expect? Because it has been said that Russia will take stern note of the measures which have been taken by the US, and it will respond soon.
To begin with, Preeti, this is a very noble practice across the world that whenever there is a diplomatic, tension and there are certain barring of diplomats or certain expulsion of diplomats from one country to another, almost a similar magnitude of reaction is taken from the other side also. So we can expect that certain diplomatic sanction or certain diplomatic individuals will be asked to leave Moscow in the days to come. To begin with, this will be the first and very formal and expected reaction that Russia can take. Apart from that, there are other issues of Russia's own regional security interests that includes military buildup or military tension that is happening along the border of Ukraine and Crimea. That is something we'll have to see how the situation is going to pan out, because apart from USA, other European countries are also expressing their concern on the latest military tension that is emerging in that part of the world. Other than that, there has been reports of why US is getting infuriated on Russian agencies and why these sanctions have come, because there have been reports that Russian agencies tried to put bounties on US soldiers' head, those who were working in Afghanistan, along the side of some militia leaders or militia fighters in Afghanistan. So these were very sensitive issues for USA, and these reactions have come in that light only. We'll have to see going forward from here, because now US is also withdrawing from Afghanistan, and Russia, China, and other neighboring countries of Afghanistan are taking a larger role into Afghanistan peace process. So if USA and Russia are not on very healthy term or not on the same page on various global and regional issues of importance and security matters, how the situation is actually going to be impacted in other parts of the world, that we'll also have to see with a cross finger.
All right, Abhishek, thank you so much for joining us with those updates. We'll keep you updated. That was our correspondent Abhishek telling us more about the issue. We'll keep you updated with the developments and the repercussions which can be seen, even as we see that US has made sanctions. Rather, US has expelled diplomats of Russia in view of the escalating situation and stress and strain between the two countries. Let's get to other news. In Iraq, 4 people were killed and 20 were wounded in a car bomb attack on Thursday in Sadr city neighborhood of Baghdad, Iraqi police said. The car was parked at a busy second-hand equipment market. Black smoke rose from the marketplace after the blast, and ambulances rushed to save the wounded. Police cordoned off the site of the blast shortly afterwards. There was no immediate claim of responsibility for the attack, and it was the second big deadly bombing to hit Baghdad this year after a suicide attack claimed by Islamic State militants killed at least 32 people in a crowded market in January. Thursday's attack comes during an election year, a time when tension between the rival Iraqi political groups has often caused violence. The foreign ministers of Turkey and Greece clashed openly on Thursday at a joint news conference in Ankara that began with hopes of improved relations but quickly descended into acrimonious accusations from both sides. Seeking to ease months of tensions over territorial disputes in the eastern Mediterranean, Greek Foreign Minister Nikos Dandias met Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan and Foreign Minister in the first visit by either side since their navies came close to fighting last year. The two countries are allies in NATO but at odds over many issues, such as competing claims over the extent of their continental shelves in the Mediterranean, airspace, energy resources, ethnically split Cyprus, and the status of some islands in the Aegean. Also, tensions flared last summer when Turkey sent a drilling ship to contested Mediterranean waters, but have eased slightly after Ankara withdrew the vessel and the countries resumed bilateral talks over their disputes following a 5-year hiatus. Turkish Foreign Minister rejected the charge. However, both sides said that they wanted to continue to try to resolve their differences through dialogue. Military jets and helicopters flew in formation over Israel on Thursday as the country marked its Independence Day free of COVID-19 restrictions more than a year ago. The customary barbecue and beach holiday celebrations were back in evidence for families who were locked down under a mandatory curfew in 2020. The celebrations for the 73rd anniversary of Israel's 1948 independence provided a moment of national unity for a polarized and exhausted Israeli electorate less than a month after a fourth inconclusive election in 2 years. Ahead of Independence Day, the Central Bureau of Statistics issued updated population figures of 9.32 million, of which 6.894 million are Jewish and 1.966 million are Arabs, with 5% others. The leaders of Ukraine, France and Germany will hold three-way talks today about Ukraine's standoff with Russia over the conflict in the eastern Donbas region. Ukrainian president informed that the meeting would lay the groundwork for a meeting in the so-called Normandy format, though he gave no indication whether or when such a meeting could happen. He said that this is an important preparatory meeting for the Normandy format, adding that the situation in Donbas is now under control. Ukraine and Russia have traded blame over a spike in violence in the conflict in eastern Ukraine, where Ukrainian troops have battled Russian-backed forces in a conflict that Kyiv says has killed 14,000 people since 2014. Ukraine and its Western allies have accused Russia of a provocative buildup of troops near Ukraine's eastern border and annexed Crimea. More than 13 crore 96 lakh people worldwide have tested positive for COVID-19 so far, while over 11 crore 87 lakh have recovered from the virus. The deadly virus has so far claimed over 29 lakh 99,000 lives globally. The United States continues to be the worst affected country by COVID-19 pandemic. So far, more than 3 crore 22 lakh people have tested positive for the virus, while over 5 lakh 78,000 people have died of the virus in the US. Top U.S. infectious disease doctor, Dr. Anthony Fauci, on Thursday said that he hopes that U.S. regulators will make a quick decision to lift a pause on Johnson & Johnson's vaccine and get it back on track. Earlier this week, a panel of advisors to the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention delayed a vote on whether to resume the Johnson & Johnson's shots for at least a week until it had more data on the risk. The U.S. had decided to pause distribution of the vaccine to investigate 6 cases of a rare brain blood clot linked with low platelet counts in the blood.
They make the conclusion of this quickly and get back on track. I hope so, and I believe they will. I believe that ultimately it will get back on track. I hope it does, but from what I've seen, I believe that it will, but I'm going to have to leave that to the regulatory authorities. That's not my decision. But once it does, I think we just got to continue to emphasize that this is a very efficacious vaccine and could be used and be very, very valuable on the global scene.
Hospitals in Brazil on Thursday were running out of drugs needed to sedate patients, with reports of those seriously ill being tired and intubated without effective sedatives. Brazil is one of the countries hardest hit by COVID-19 pandemic. Aid group MSF says Brazil's failed response had led to thousands of avoidable deaths and created a humanitarian catastrophe that could still get worse. Brazil has so far reported over 1 crore 37 lakh 58,000 COVID cases, while the deadly virus has claimed more than 3 lakh 65,000 lives. Hospitals in the country are working at war footing to treat the patients. Despite rising number of COVID cases and deaths, Brazil's President Jair Bolsonaro has opposed lockdowns. He has only recently embraced vaccines as a possible solution. Chile's health authorities on Thursday said that they expect a dip in record number of cases and stabilization of COVID-19 second wave in the country due to strict lockdowns, as well as a rapid vaccination program that has fully inoculated a third of the population. Chile has so far vaccinated 50% of its 15 million strong target population with at least one dose and given 32.7% 2 doses. The health minister of Chile says that stringent lockdowns now cover over 80% of the country, coupled with public awareness campaigns, might enable to hold elections on 15th of May to pick constituents to draft a new constitution as well as local government officials. The election was postponed from April. Meanwhile, Chile will today become one of the first countries to release a real-world data showing how effective the vaccines have been in reducing contagion, serious illness and deaths. Head of the Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention on Thursday said that there is a strong uptake of COVID-19 vaccines on the continent, but that most of the Africans who have received their first vaccine do not know when they will get a second shot. So far, majority of the vaccines available in African countries have been delivered via the World Health Organization-backed COVAX facility. COVAX aims to deliver 600 million shots to some 40 African countries this year. Africa lags behind most other regions in the COVID-19 vaccinations, with less than 14 million doses having been administered on the continent of 1.3 billion. Portuguese Prime Minister Antonio Costa on Thursday said that most regions of the country will enter the third phase of easing the COVID-19 lockdown from 19th of April. However, stricter rules will remain in place in municipalities where transmission rates continue to be high. Portugal, which imposed a lockdown in January to curb what was then the world's worst COVID-19 surge, started lifting restrictions last month and has since reopened a few schools, restaurants and cafe terraces, museums as well as salons. Portugal has so far reported more than 8,29,000 cases of COVID-19 and as many as 16,933 people have died of the virus in the country. Scottish First Minister Nicola Sturgeon on Thursday received her first dose of AstraZeneca vaccine after getting the jab at a mass vaccination centre in Glasgow. She said that she was absolutely relaxed.
It was completely pain-free, didn't feel a thing. It's quite, it's quite emotional getting the vaccine because everybody's been through so much and this is what offers us so much hope. I had AstraZeneca, that wasn't my choice. I decided I would take what I was given because nobody else gets to choose. I'm quite glad I did get AstraZeneca though, because it allows me not just to say to people that it is a safe vaccine that if they're offered it they should take. I can now say to people I've had it and I am absolutely relaxed about that.
Some countries are restricting the use of AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine to certain age groups or suspending use after European and British regulators confirmed possible links to rare blood clots. They, however, continue to recommend AstraZeneca shot on the grounds that the benefits outweigh the risks. Up next, we're heading for a short commercial break. Again, stay with us. We'll be back in a short while.
To Rising India, India's voice on global platforms. Latest news from India and around the world. In-depth analysis of global headlines. Watch DD India in your country. Available for downlink in Middle East countries. STTV broadcast is available through the satellite GSAT 17 at 93.5 degrees east. HDTV broadcast is available through the satellite GSAT 10 at 83 degrees east. For technical details, scan here. Switch to DD India now. The changing world of news. Headlines that you wake up to. News that shapes your day. Stories that matter to you. The latest and most accurate updates. A fresh start to a new day. The Breakfast News, Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. on DD India.
Welcome back after the break. Up next, we get you updates from the world of business. Equity benchmark Sensex advanced over 150 points in early trade on Friday. Tracking gains in index measures HDFC Twins, Asian Paints and HCL Tech, and that is amidst largely positive cues from the global markets. The S&P BSE Sensex rose 200 points at 49,000 level, and the broader Nifty index topped the 14,650 mark. Asian Paints, HCL Tech, Ultratech, Cement were up 1% each and were the top Sensex gainers. The Nifty sectoral indices, barring Nifty Pharma Index, traded in the green, led by Nifty IT Index, up by 0.8%. Elsewhere in Asia, bourses in Shanghai, Hong Kong and Tokyo were trading on a positive note in the mid-session deals, while Seoul was in the red. Equities on Wall Street too ended with gains in overnight sessions. Meanwhile, international oil benchmark Brent crude was trading flat at $66.94 per barrel. U.S. retail sales rebounded more than expected in March as Americans received additional pandemic relief checks from the government, and increased COVID-19 vaccinations allowed broader economic re-engagement, cementing expectations for a robust growth in the first quarter. The brightening economic prospects were underscored by other data on Thursday, showing first-time claims for unemployment benefits tumbled last week to the lowest level since March 2020, when mandatory closures of non-essential businesses were enforced to slow the spread of the pandemic. Let's get to sports updates now. Manchester United will face Roma in the Europa League semi-finals. This will be the 18th semi-final in all European competitions for the Reds, with only rivals Liverpool having appeared in more among the English sides. The Reds secured a 4-0 aggregate victory over Granada in yesterday night's quarter-final tie and will now prepare to face the Serie A side. Roma overcame Ajax in their last 8 tie thanks to a 2-1 win in the Netherlands last week and a 1-each draw in Rome to seal a 3-2 aggregate win. The first leg will take place at Old Trafford on Thursday, that is 29th of April, before the Reds head to Italy for the second leg on Thursday, 6th of May. Arsenal cruised past Slavia Prague to 4-0 to book a Europa League semi-final spot yesterday after they struck 3 quick-fire goals in 7 first-half minutes to advance 5-1 on aggregate. Alexandre Lacazette scored twice, including a penalty, while Nicolas Pepe and Bukayo Saka also found the net in the quarter-final second leg to set up a last-4 clash with Villarreal. Arsenal surprisingly held to 1-each home draw by the Czech champions, signalling their intent from the start as they pressed forward to create chances, while Slavia struggled to move the ball out of their own half and rarely threatened in the attack. The Board of Control for Cricket in India yesterday announced the annual central contracts for the period stretching from October 2020 to September 2021. Indian skipper Virat Kohli, Rohit Sharma and fast bowler Jasprit Bumrah have been retained in the A+ category and will receive ₹7 crore annually. The BCCI, like last year, has divided players into 4 grades, with most of the test specialists like Ravichandran Ashwin, Cheteshwar Pujara, Ajinkya Rahane and Ravindra Jadeja finding a place in grade A with a retainership amount of ₹5 crore. The grade B has 5 players, including fast bowlers Bhuvaneshwar Kumar, Umesh Yadav and Shardul Thakur, who will get ₹3 crore. Rajasthan Royals pull off a thrilling chase against Delhi Capitals in the Indian Premier League 2021 at the encounter at the Wankhede Stadium yesterday. Morris hit 4 huge sixes as the Royals gunned down a 148-run target on a tricky pitch in Mumbai. The Royals needed 58 runs in the last 5 overs, and Morris, with good company from Jaydev Unadkat, got them past the finish line. Morris hit 4 huge sixes, 2 against Kazigur Abada as the former champions opened their account in IPL 2021. Earlier in the day, Delhi Capitals huffed and puffed 247 for 8 in their quota of 20 overs after being sent into bat by Rajasthan Royals skipper Sanju Samson, who won the toss. It was an innings where not even a single 6 was hit, quite in contrast to their powerful 189-run chase against Chennai Super Kings last Saturday. All right, let's change track now. Let's get to a health update, a health report. Improper food hygiene can affect digestion process. Our correspondent Kiran Bhardwaj spoke to Dr. Siddharth Srivastava about prevention of food poisoning. Take a look.
Consuming contaminated and unhygienic food can cause the problem of food poisoning. What are the symptoms of food poisoning and what can be done to prevent this problem? Let's understand from Dr. Siddharth Srivastava. Welcome, Dr. Srivastava.
Thank you.
What are the causes of food poisoning and how does it present?
Food poisoning is characterized by nausea, vomiting and diarrhea. It is caused by germs present in the food. Germs can be bacteria, viruses or the parasites. The germs enter the food by unhygienic practice of the person who is cooking it, not washing the vegetables and fruits very thoroughly, and not washing the knives and the chopper board on which it's being cut properly.
If a person is suffering from food poisoning, what should be the management?
Even if you have food poisoning, do not worry. Just rehydrate, means drink a lot of fluids and water. Take a small amount of food and multiple times. Avoid food which cause aggravation of the symptoms. When you require medical advice is severe diarrhea, high temperature, extremes of age, that is more than 70, less than 10 years of age, and people with special care like pregnant female and person who are on cancer therapy.
What precautions should be followed to prevent food poisoning?
Most important thing is prevention of food poisoning. It can be done with proper hygiene. Wash your hands after going to washroom with soap and water before cooking the food. Wash the food and vegetables very thoroughly, especially if it is being used for salad, because it is not going to be cooked. You are going to eat it raw. Safety precautions are important for food. If you are drinking milk, it should be boiled or pasteurized. If you are eating a non-vegetarian food, it has to be completely thoroughly cooked.
Taking care of hand hygiene and food hygiene will help to prevent the problem of food poisoning. Kiran Bhardwaj, DD News.
Alright, on that health note, we end this edition of News on the Hour here. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.